The lights died at 2:03 a.m., all at once, like someone pulled the cord on the whole world. 1 second, the security housing unit at Pelican Bay was a tunnel of white, hard light. The next second, darkness swallowed the tear, and the sound changed. Fans slowed. Distant TVs clicked off. The building took one long breath and went quiet in a way that made every person inside feel smaller. In that breath, a low red glow came on over the doors, emergency lights meant to keep order when the power fails. But the red didn't reach far. It turned the concrete the color of blood and left deep shadows between cells. Officer Ben Carter felt the floor under his boots shake as the backup generator tried to catch. He lifted his radio. "Control, Pod C just lost main power," he said, keeping his voice even. Beside him, Officer Dana Ruiz raised her flashlight and sent a thin white cone down the tier. It made a tight lane of vision and 1,000 places to hide. Somewhere far down the hall, something metal tapped once. The sound seemed to travel in the dark, like a thought. The radio popped with static. Control answered. Acknowledged. Backup is cycling. Hold position. Count your line. Ben counted doors. He did it out loud so Dana could hear, so the two of them were one steady sound inside the red gloom. 17 secure. 18 secure. 19 secure. At 20, they both stopped. A thin haze hung in front of that door, like cold breath. Dana leaned closer. The thick glass had fog on the outside, not the inside. Her stomach tightened. "That's backwards," she whispered. "Glass doesn't do that." Before Ben could answer, the intercom over their heads crackled. It was never this loud at night. A voice came through, soft but close, like someone speaking into the ceiling. "Officer," it said, "you should move." Dana's hand hovered over the radio. "Control, we have intercom activity in Pod C with power out. Possible crosstalk." But before Control could reply, a second voice rode under the first. Same words, same tone, like a faint echo just a fraction off. "You should move." The red emergency light above door 20 blinked once and went dark. And then the door locks all along the tier clicked, one by one, from left to right, like a zipper opening in the dark. Hours earlier, when the day shift handed the unit over, Pelican Bay felt like a machine that had chosen order. The air smelled like disinfectant and dust. The floor showed the clean marks of the last pass of the mop. The SHU is built to reduce surprise. Thick doors, narrow windows, lines you can see down in one look. People on the outside think the danger comes from noise and chaos. Old-timers like Ben know it comes from silence. Night's silence is heavy. It lays on the concrete and waits. Ben liked nights because the rules were simple. You watch. You count. You listen for small changes. You treat every small change like a doorbell. Don't panic, but don't ignore it. He'd learned to tell the difference between a spoon and a paper clip when they hit the floor. He knew the slow rhythm of a man pacing in cuffs versus a man doing push-ups in place. He knew that a towel across a vent could mean someone wanted the room warmer, or it could mean someone didn't want sound to travel. Dana was good at the details. She checked hinges with her eyes. She could tell if a door closed 2 millimeters short. She took notes in neat squares and listened more than she talked. She said the building had moods. Ben said that was just the night getting into her head. Secretly, he knew what she meant. Concrete holds old sounds. When it gets dark, you hear them. Their shift started at 10 p.m. They did health and welfare checks, slow and steady, saying names, getting eyes, logging responses. In cell 12, a man named Marcus Lane had a cough he said was nothing. In cell 16, Noah Price had folded his blanket into a perfect square that sat exactly in the middle of the bunk. In cell 20, the man inside, Aaron Cole, did not ask for anything, did not speak. He watched. He was the kind of quiet that made you look twice. At 11:40 p.m., a routine power test hummed through the walls. The lights dipped and came back. The generator coughed and settled. By 12:30 a.m., the unit was as calm as it ever gets. Somewhere outside the walls, the Pacific threw cold, salt air against the trees. Inside, the tier felt like a long-held breath. The myths about a place like this don't match the slower truth. Reports, documentaries, and interviews say the SGU is made of small tasks and long waiting, heavy rules and short windows. There is no death row here. No marching to a final room. The danger is not from one big thing, but from many small ones lining up on the same night. That is what nights teach you. Watch for the line that connects small things. The first small thing was a smell. At 1:47 a.m., Ben sniffed and frowned. "You smell that?" he asked.
Dana did.
It was faint, like warm plastic, sweet and wrong. They checked outlets. They checked the panel. Nothing hot. They noted it in the log. The second small thing was the glass. At 1:59 a.m., the inner window of cell 20 had a film of fog on the inside. Normal. A human being breathing in a small space will do that. At 2:01 a.m., the fog was gone. At 2:02 a.m., there was fog on the outside of the glass instead. Not normal. Dana put her palm near it, not touching. Cool air kissed her skin. "We have a draft," she said. Ben shook his head.
The vents did not push air that way.
The third small thing was the sound that pretended to be nothing. A soft scrape down low, like a shoe turning on grit, traveled under the doors. It moved from cell 18 to 19 to 20, then stopped. "Animal?" Dana offered. There were no animals here. At 2:03 a.m., the lights cut. In the first seconds of dark, training carries you. Ben's hand found his flashlight without looking. Dana's thumb tested the talk button before she spoke. They made themselves anchors. A calm voice, a steady beam, as the unit groaned and the backup tried to figure out what to do. The red emergency fixtures woke up and threw their low glow. In that glow, shadows got teeth. "Pod C holding," Ben reported. "Beginning door check." They stepped slow. When you can only see a slice, you move like the floor isn't yours. At 17, a pair of eyes blinked at them from the bunk and went still again. At 18, a folded paper cup sat under the food port like a small, white animal. At 19, the blanket on the bunk had shifted 2 inches toward the wall, even though no one had touched it. At 20, the fog was where it should not be, and the red light over the door winked like a tired eye. Then the intercom spoke and the lock lights clicked and the zipper sound ran down the tier. "Control," Dana said, louder, and a little of the calm left her voice. "We are hearing sequential lock activity on Pod C. Request immediate panel status." Control answered. Panel shows green across the board. No unlocks in Pod C. Ben looked at the doors. The floor told him different. Metal has a throat, and it had just cleared it. "Count," he said. Dana swept the light across the narrow windows. Faces.
Eyes.
A hand on a frame. Closed doors. But one window was only black. Cell 20. Ben stepped closer and aimed the beam through the glass. The bunk inside was neat. The stainless toilet gleamed. On the hook was an orange jumpsuit hung like a flat man. On the folded blanket lay a plastic ID band with the name Cole, Aaron stenciled in tiny letters. The room was empty. Dana's breath fogged the outer glass now. "He was here at 1:45, she said. "He was here." Ben's light caught a small thing near the vent. Just a glint. He crouched. A paper clip lay on the floor by the grate, stretched long and straight, then bent back tight, like someone had tested it, again and again, until the metal learned a trick. He didn't touch it. He stood. The intercom clicked again.
A different voice this time.
Older.
"Come."
It spoke slow, like it knew they would listen. "When the lights go out," it said, "the building remembers things." The words felt like air pushed through a long pipe. "You will hear them walk." A door at the far end of the tier banged 3 times in a steady beat. Bang, bang, bang. In between each, silence grew teeth. Dana raised her light. The beam shook now. "Control," Ben said, forcing his tone back to even. "Request immediate assistance to Pod C. Possible malfunction. Possible missing inmate." He did not use the word escape. He would not give that word a place to sit. "Response team rolling," Control said. Sally port opening. They heard the first door to the pod slide with a slow, tired growl. The sound came through the floor more than the air. The second door should not open until the first closed. That is the rule. That is the safety. Ben and Dana turned to look back toward the Sallyport window at the top of the tier, where they would see the team step in, shields, camera pull, slow, steady. They never saw the team. The window at the Sallyport was dark, like the rest of the glass had taken in the red and kept it, but that square drank light. Ben lifted his beam toward it. The cone of light went forward and didn't come back. It disappeared into the dark like a hand into cold water. "Do you see that?" Dana whispered. The intercom answered for the room. "Step back from the door," the calm voice said, and now Ben knew it was coming from the little silver speaker played on the wall beside cell 20, not from control. He and Dana both took one step without deciding to. Then every red emergency light along the ceiling went out together. The backup generator didn't cough this time. It didn't warn them. The darkness that felt thick, like a blanket thrown over a moving body. Ben could hear his own breath and the small rasp of Dana's sleeve. Down the tier, a metal cup rolled once and settled. A new sound rose in the dark. Chain on concrete.
Slow.
Dragging. It started near the far door and moved toward them, link by link, too patient to be a person, too heavy to be nothing. Dana's flashlight died with a sad little click. Ben lifted his and pressed the button hard. It gave him one thin, weak blink, and then went black for good. He reached for Dana's arm so they would not lose each other in the sound. That was when a hand they could not see touched the glass of cell 20 from the inside. They knew because they heard the small kiss of skin on cold. 5 fingers, slow, drawing down the pane. In the red light's ghost afterglow, the trail looked wet, then dry, then not there at all. The chain sound stopped at their feet. And in the dark, a key turned in a lock that had no keyhole. The silence after the key turned was heavier than the dark. For 3 long seconds, no one moved. Then, faintly, the hum of the backup generator returned somewhere deep in the walls. The lights flickered, once, twice, and finally came back to life in a dim, trembling glow. Ben and Dana blinked, letting their eyes adjust. The red emergency lights were gone. Now only the cold white fluorescence buzzed weakly. The hallway looked the same, except for one thing. The cell doors that had been locked minutes ago were all standing half an inch open. Ben's hand went to his radio, voice rough. "Control, Pod C, door malfunction confirmed. All cells appear unsecured. Repeat, all cells unsecured." No response, just static. "Control, do you copy?" Dana tried, louder this time. Still nothing. Then the intercom crackled again. This time it wasn't the calm voice. It was chaos, shouting, alarms, a clang of metal, and someone yelling, "Generator 2 down," before the line died again. They looked at each other. The building wasn't just glitching. Something bigger was wrong. Dana whispered, "If those doors really unlocked." "Then we follow procedure," Ben said, even though every nerve in his body screamed, "Don't move."
"We verify."
"We lock down." He reached for the first door, cell 17. Slowly pushed it. It resisted, heavy but movable. Inside, the inmate sat motionless on his bunk, wide-eyed, both hands visible. He hadn't moved an inch. His lips were trembling. "You heard it too?" Ben asked. The man nodded once, whispering, "You shouldn't be here." They closed the door, forcing the lock back manually, then moved to the next. 18 empty. Just a folded paper cup on the floor. 19 occupied, but the man inside was standing in the corner, facing the wall. His voice was low, steady, and wrong. "When the lights go out," he murmured, "the walls start talking." Dana's flashlight beam shook as she swept it over him. "Face forward," she ordered. The man didn't move. Ben reached for his cuffs, reflex, but froze when he saw the inmate's reflection in the window. The reflection wasn't moving either. "Dana," he whispered. "Back up." Before she could react, the man turned, slow and smooth, until his eyes met theirs. The pupils were blown wide from the dark. He smiled, not cruel, not kind, just knowing. "They're not supposed to be awake," he said. Then every cell light flicked on at once. The sound that followed was like thunder, metal slamming, inmates shouting, boots running on concrete. The entire unit came alive. "Move!" Ben yelled, grabbing Dana's vest. They sprinted back toward the sally port as the tier behind them erupted. Some inmates were banging on doors that weren't locked anymore. Others were shouting for help, for light, for guards. At the far end, the door control panel glowed faint green. It was online again, but something about the pattern was wrong. The display was showing open commands cycling through every door, over and over. Dana slammed the emergency override, locking everything she could. "We're losing the system," she shouted. "Then we go manual." Ben turned toward the gate. That's when they heard it again, the dragging sound. This time it wasn't chains. It was footsteps. Bare feet, slow, wet, echoing off the polished concrete. The noise came from the blind corner near cell 20, the cell that was empty. Ben aimed his flashlight beam, but the light flickered weakly, battery dying. He could only see the outline of something standing halfway in the shadows. A man in an orange jumpsuit, barefoot, arms hanging loose at his sides. It was Aaron Cole.
He was calm. Too calm.
"Cole," Ben said carefully, "you need to return to your cell."
Now.
Cole didn't move. His head tilted slightly, eyes reflecting the weak light like glass. Then, in the quietest voice possible, he said, "You left the door open. They don't like that." Dana stepped closer, whispering, "Who's they?" Cole raised a finger and pointed at the ceiling vents. "The ones who never left." Before Ben could respond, the overhead lights flickered again, harder this time, and went completely out. Darkness. Then screams. Not from Cole. From the cells. Every door that had been half open slammed shut all at once, echoing down the corridor like 100 gunshots. The intercom came alive, filled with whispers, hundreds of overlapping voices. Some crying, some laughing, some reciting the same phrase over and over. "Lights out. Lights out. Lights out." Dana fumbled for her flashlight. It clicked once, then flared on, blinding white for a second before it steadied.
Cole was gone.
Only his ID band was left on the floor, bent into a circle. "Control." Ben shouted into the radio. "We have a full system breach. Officer safety compromised. We need..."
He stopped.
The control booth window ahead of them, where they had entered earlier, was glowing from the inside. Behind the glass, the shape of someone stood perfectly still, facing the monitors. For a heartbeat, Ben thought it was another officer. Relief hit him. Then the figure lifted its head, and he saw the face on the monitor screens light up all at once. The face of Aaron Cole, staring directly at the camera from every angle. His voice filled the intercom low and even. "It's their turn now." Every light in the control booth exploded, raining glass down inside. Dana screamed. Ben pulled her back. Smoke and alarms filled the air. Somewhere far away, the emergency klaxon started again, but no footsteps came to help. And in the red emergency glow returning to life, a final message scrolled across the control screen, letters typing themselves, one by one. "When lights go out, we walk." The screen blinked. Then the power died completely. To be continued.